Welcome to Childcare Conversations, the podcast where early childhood leaders like you get real-world strategies, honest talk, and a whole lot of support. Whether you're running one center or many, we're here to help you lead with confidence and clarity. This episode is brought to you by Center IQ. If you've ever added a child to a classroom, adjusted staffing, or made a quick schedule change, and then spent the next 2 weeks fixing the ripple effects, you're not alone. Most leaders make decisions and then see what happens. Center IQ's decision intelligence lets you see what happens before you decide. Start your free trial today at centeriq.io. Now, let's get into today's conversation, one we think you're really going to love.
Better decisions, stronger centers, and why we built Center IQ. Hey friends, thank you so much for coming back to Childcare Conversations. Most of you know who I am, but I am Kate Woodward Young, and I am our co-host. But today I'm going to do something just a little bit different because, well, I want to talk to you about something that I believe is, well, underneath a lot of the pressure that we feel in childcare as leaders. Now, before I talk about Center IQ, I want to start with what we've been seeing. Some of you know that we supported and promoted a leadership snapshot research piece that was done since January. It was done in January to March. And one of the things that we saw were some of the different patterns that showed up. Leaders were not telling us they were busy. They were telling us that they were carrying too much pressure and that they had no clarity. We were seeing things like delayed decisions, role confusion, staffing strain, and leaders who knew something wasn't quite right, but didn't know how to say it clearly or really how to even identify it. And the more that we looked into those responses, the more convinced I became that one of the biggest hidden pain points in childcare is this. Leaders are not overwhelmed by tasks. They're overwhelmed by decisions. Not one decision, not one big crisis, but decision after decision. Should we hire? Should we wait? Can we afford this classroom? Is this a staffing issue? Is this a leadership issue? Do I have my systems in place? Do I raise the tuition? How do I cover the staff? And then you come to workshops like ours and we start talking to you about numbers and data, and you got to keep track, and what are the numbers telling us, and who needs attention now, and what can wait. I don't know about you, but that kind of pressure starts to really weigh on you. And way too often, owners and directors are making really important decisions with incomplete visibility, scattered information, and no real way to connect the dots. And that is what I want to talk about today. Why decision pressure is one of the most overlooked issues in childcare leadership. What it is really costing centers, and why Center IQ was built. It was built to help leaders make better decisions with less guesswork. I don't know about you, but as a director, I'm busy. I've got stuff to do. And man, sometimes that stuff I got to do is heavy. I got to deal with parents and staff and, well, everything else. I think one of the things that we have normalized in childcare is that you can be overwhelmed, that it's okay to try to be the superhero without realizing that that cape is really just an accessory. We have normalized the idea that leadership means carrying a lot of stuff, absorbing a lot of stuff, and juggling all of it without having a clue where it goes. And yes, this is a high responsibility field. We have regulatory agencies, we have compliance agencies, we have big humans, we have little humans, we have relationships, we have emotions. And then on top of all of that, we got day-to-day operations. And then if that wasn't enough, we've got finances. Now, I don't know about y'all, but most of the people I know who are in early childcare did not wake up one day and say, woohoo, I want to go into early child care and I want to play with numbers. So we have all of this. And just because something is common doesn't mean it's healthy. And just because something is familiar does not mean it's sustainable. A lot of leaders, we're not just tired because there's too much to do. We're tired because everything we're doing is connected to some decision. A lot of times those decisions are loaded. They're not just about decisions for us, right? They're loaded decisions that impact our staff and our families and the children in our care. They're loaded based on finances and emotions and operations and relations. You are not deciding whether or not to move a teacher. You're deciding what that does to ratios, payroll, morale, parent trust, classroom consistency, and your own peace of mind. You are not just deciding whether or not to address a team issue. You're deciding whether that conversation you have to have is going to impact staff retention, family retention, organizational culture, the confidence of your staff, and maybe even of yourself. Whether the rest of the team feels like standards and compliance even actually matter. You are not just deciding whether or not to raise tuition or to adjust an enrollment strategy. One of the decisions you are faced every single day is where do you spend your money and your time? You are deciding that families in your care, how important are they? Are they families or are they dollars? You are deciding about staff. You decide about cash flow. You decide about your reputation in that of your program and your business. So when leaders say they're overwhelmed, I think you and we need to hear something deeper. I know you're listening to this and you are probably thinking, yay, it's a Kate and Carrie episode. They're going to be so funny. Well, I'm not really sure this is terribly funny, but I want you to think about how overwhelmed you are. And it's because of all those decisions you get to carry and how little clarity you have. Decision fatigue. It's real. You have it every single day. I don't know about you, but sometimes I just want to go home and I'm perfectly okay eating whatever leftovers in the house because then I don't have to make a decision about what to eat. Decision fatigue is one of those things that might sound somewhat abstract and maybe you're not really sure. If you are somebody who likes to have a routine, that could be because of decision fatigue. Are you a director who has a long, long list and sometimes things just never get off the list? And it could be because that requires a decision. In childcare, it is not abstract. Decision fatigue is real. It looks like knowing something is off, but not exactly sure what the problem is. Is it staffing? Is it pricing? Is it enrollment? Scheduling? Leadership inconsistency? Or all of the above? It looks like revisiting the same issue over and over because nobody has enough visibility to solve it fully. It looks like, avoiding the numbers because they already feel heavy. And the last thing you want is more evidence that things are tighter than you hoped. It looks like putting people off is a decision because, you care deeply for them. And so you don't really make a people decision. You don't necessarily hire the staff or let the staff go because you don't want to make the wrong call. It looks like carrying concerns home with you because you never quite feel settled in the decisions that you made that day. It looks like reacting to symptoms instead of seeing the whole picture. I'm pausing because I want to say this clearly. A lot of really smart, capable, committed leaders have been made to feel that if they just were better at business or more strategic, more disciplined, more confident, this would all feel better. I don't think that's the full story. I think many leaders are trying to lead with pieces of information, fragmented information. They have some of the numbers. They have some instincts. They have some reports. They have some experience. And they got a whole lot of pressure. But they don't always have a simple way to see the whole picture. And if they can't see and the visibility is weak, those decisions get harder. Not because as a leader you're weak. It's because your picture is missing a puzzle piece or two or three. That cost of delayed decisions is a financial impact to you. One of those financial impacts might be a pattern. And if that pattern happens week after week and day after day, all those delayed decisions have a financial impact, which turns into be an emotional impact. And it's not because as a leader, you don't care. A lot of times that delay happens because you care a lot. You know the implications of those numbers. You are very aware what that means to the people involved, the money involved. You know that that's going to just mess with all the culture, right? You've worked really hard to bring people together. And so then you wait, and then maybe you try to gather some more information. You hope things will settle down. Oh, just another week. I'll do that in a week. Maybe if we try this, they tell themselves, I will revisit it later. Sometimes that's wise, but sometimes the delay is where the real cost begins. The staffing issue that stays too long and becomes a morale issue. The enrollment concern that gets brushed off becomes a money issue. That unclear role becomes a leadership tension issue. The tuition hesitation becomes a margin issue. The classroom inconsistency becomes a trust issue. Sometimes the most expensive decision is not the wrong one, it's the delayed one. And in childcare, one decision in one area rarely stays in one area. A staffing decision affects classroom quality. A classroom issue affects parent confidence. Parent confidence affects retention. A retention issue affects revenue. Revenue issue affects payroll pressure. Payroll pressure affects leadership and impacts leadership stress. Everything is connected. And that is why clarity matters so much, because leaders cannot afford to make every decision in reaction mode and then hope things balance out later. Why do numbers feel so hard for so many leaders? And so I want to talk about numbers for a minute, because I know that most of us have a complicated relationship with numbers. Some feel intimidated by them. Some feel a little embarrassed by them. Some feel like the financial side belongs to someone else. Some feel like the numbers only ever bring bad news. But I want to offer a different perspective. Your numbers are not there to shame you. They're to guide you. They are the signals. They are the clue. They are to help you stop guessing. They're there to help you find patterns. We're teaching our children patterns. We are teaching them math literacy based on patterns. Even if you don't understand everything, you will be able to see the pattern. But we somehow, as leaders, as educators, we find ourselves forgetting to ask questions. That data, those numbers, they help you make decision before the pressure gets worse. Now, here's the thing. Childcare will always be a people business. You can't have children without people. It will always be a relationship business. It will always be a mission-driven business. But mission without visibility gets expensive. Leadership without visibility gets exhausting. And when leaders do not know their break-even reality, when they do not understand the classroom economics, when they cannot clearly see how one staffing change impacts the bigger picture, they end up making decisions in the dark. Not because you're careless. It's because you care too much. It's because you don't have the right visibility at the right time. And that is one of the problems we want to solve. So let's talk about Center IQ. Center IQ, you've heard it all month on Childcare Conversations. They have been a partner with us. Center IQ was built because the childcare world did not need a new shiny toy. We have had a lot of technology shiny toys in the last 6 years. The last thing that any of us want is more noise. It was built because for years, really, we're going to talk about decades, I have been helping and watching leaders making high stakes decisions with low clarity information. Those of us who are passionate about children and love children and really loved being an educator, we weren't trained on understanding spreadsheets. The spreadsheets didn't help. And yes, we have got some great platform tools that will take that information. We might have even hired it done. We might have bookkeepers and accountants and tax strategists. We have all of these reports, but somehow we still don't know how to make them all connect. We haven't figured out how to connect the dots. Now, a lot of us in the industry, we trust our gut. Yeah, but gut feelings with no backup, not always a good plan. Scattered conversations. You might have, and I, as somebody who has had multiple coaches in my life, if you've got coaches and you've got people who you're going to their workshop and you're going to their session, everybody's telling you something maybe slightly off, and you've got all these different pieces of data, but nothing is coming together in a way that supports you as the leader who doesn't necessarily instinctively look at numbers and go, oh, I know what that means. And again, the problem is not the leaders do not care. The problem is not that you're not trying, because I know you're trying. I see you. I've talked to you. I have worked with almost 5,000 directors and owners over the last 30 years. I know what you're looking for. And it's not just in childcare. Believe it or not, there are some other industries that have these same issues. The problem is that you often don't have a decision support system built for you, childcare leaders. So Center IQ is about helping leaders see more clearly so that they can decide more confidently. It's about reducing the guesswork. It's about reducing the fog, reducing the feeling that you are constantly making important decisions with only half the picture. It is not about replacing leadership, because we can't do that. It is about strengthening leadership. It's not about removing intuition. It's about giving intuition better information. It's not about turning childcare into a cold numbers only business. It's about helping mission-driven leaders make decisions that are sustainable, strategic, and grounded in reality. And I think right now that matters, because leaders don't need more noise. They just need more clarity. All right. So if this is hitting home to you at all, I want you to invite you to take the next step. As a listener with Childcare Conversations, you can start a 30-day trial with Center IQ. It is centeriq.io. If you know there are decisions you have to make today, stop making them with half the information. If you want better visibility into what is happening in your center, and you want stronger decision support without more noise, this is exactly why Center IQ was built. Now, in our show notes, you can find a link to Center IQ and start your 30-day trial. Who or what is Center IQ for? Who is Center IQ really for? I think Center IQ is especially important for those leaders who are feeling any one of these things. Okay, so I'm going to list off some things, and if this sounds like you, go check it out. What do you got to lose? You got everything to gain. Now, I know something is off, but I can't tell what is driving it. I know I need better numbers, but I'm not really sure what I'm looking at. I get my report every month from my bookkeeper. Feel like I'm making decisions, but I'm only getting partial results. I'm an owner, and sometimes my director makes a decision that I disagree with because I feel like they don't understand the whole picture. As a director, sometimes my owner wants me to do something and it doesn't make sense. My owner wants me to enroll every child that comes in the building, but also they want me to make sure that my payroll is at a reasonable rate. I want to lead and make decisions with confidence and a lot less panic. As an owner, as a director, we want to be able to speak the same language. That one touches me. Because so many owners and directors struggle. And sometimes the perception is that staff are lazy or uncommitted or even unwilling to work hard. Really, they're struggling because the owner is looking at one set of pressures. The director is looking at another set of pressures, and they're not always looking through the same set of glasses. Finance is saying one thing. Operations is saying another. The classroom reality is saying something else, and nobody is fully aligned. Shared visibility creates shared language. Shared language creates better decisions. Better decisions create stronger centers, and that is the point. What instability really sounds like? Sometimes instability sounds like, we're fine, but I know something's off. We're making it work. Yeah. But it's feeling a little harder than maybe it should. We're full, but yet our numbers aren't working. So I heard on TikTok that really it's a systems problem. I just need to fix my systems. So there was this influencer I saw, and man, they were so full of energy, and it's a staffing problem. Don't have the right staff. Sometimes I feel like I have heard the same thing over and over and over. And every time I have a conversation with my coach or with the owner or some consultant, I'm trying to solve the same issue. Or maybe it's just, I really don't know what the numbers are trying to say to me. All of that are examples of instability. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's chaos. Sometimes it's just a drag, confusion, repeated pressure. The feeling that the center is functioning, but not moving forward, not gaining strength. That is why I love the language of clarity, because sometimes leaders, we just need to completely overhaul first. Sometimes we need the right picture first. What is actually happening? What is driving the pressure? What is the symptom? What is the root cause? What needs a people response? What needs a financial response? What needs a leadership response? I shared this story today, and I want you to think about it. When's the last time you built a gingerbread house? Did you know there is a right way to put a roof on a gingerbread house? There is. And sometimes, even if you've learned how to put the right roof on the house, you've got the standard operating procedure, you've got all of the right supplies, it is color coded, you are ready to go. But here's the thing. You don't have the right infrastructure. If you just got some walls up and you put a roof on top, it's going to collapse. That shared language builds that infrastructure. As we're in summer, right? Summer is like next week for some of y'all. Summer is already happening for some of you. And I don't want you to wait until this fall to start to reflect and figure out what you need to build for next fall. You want to get really good at gingerbread houses? You start practicing them now. You don't build them once a year. Part of the reason I want to talk about this right now is because if we wait until summer, late summer, you're already feeling the pressure for that back to school enrollment season. The enrollment pressure, the staffing pressure, the transition pressure, and Lordy be the budget pressure and the schedule pressure. And the family communication pressure. I get it. When you are operating in reaction mode, it's hard to create planning mode. That is exactly why visibility matters. The clearer the visibility, the easier it is for you as a leader to look ahead before that pressure starts to peek its head. So here are some questions I would encourage you to ask yourself right now. Go pull out paper, pencil. If you need to pause this episode, pull over if you're a car listener, because I got some questions for you. What is your enrollment actually telling you? What does your current staffing structure support and not support? Where are decisions being delayed? Where are the roles and responsibilities unclear? Where have you been carrying the risk that you haven't named yet? What is likely to feel urgent later if you don't look at it now? Those are leadership questions. Those are the kinds of questions leaders need help answering before the monsoon of pressure and stress comes in. We do not want monsoon season. What I want leaders to hear today, if you're listening, I don't care when you're listening to it. You can listen to this episode in a couple of years. But if you are feeling buried, foggy, behind, tired of making every single decision, and it never seems to get easier, I want you to go take a look at why. You are not weak, you are not failing, and you are by far not the only one who has ever looked at a staffing chart. The enrollment reality, the enrollment predictions, the classroom pressure, the payroll concern, or the daily leadership load and thought, something's got to change and I need to figure it out. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to look for. I don't know how to do that. That is not incompetence. That is a signal. That is a signal that you need better visibility, that you need better decision support, better leadership infrastructure. And I really believe the next chapter of childcare leadership has to include that. Not just motivation, not just training hours, not just more encouragement. Those things matter. But leaders also need tools that help them see the business and leadership picture clearly. Because when leaders can see more clearly, they can lead more clearly. They can make stronger calls and they can reduce the panic. Yeah, they can. They can address those issues later because those decisions are no longer private burdens. Why does this matter at your center? Conversations matter because stronger decisions do not just affect one owner or one director. They impact teams, classrooms, families, and communities by sustainable programs. They impact whether or not your good leaders burn out or your good leaders stay. And I care about that. This field has so many passionate leaders, but we want leaders who are willing to sustain the work, leaders who can make those decisions with confidence. And they don't have to spend all day wondering if they missed something. When we did the leadership stability snapshot a few months ago, we really thought that decision pressure was behind the pain points in childcare leadership. That delayed, unclear decisions are costing centers money. Center IQ, decision intelligence. Yes, I know, another piece of software, another app, but it really is. It is a tool that is so much more than a tool. It helps you understand the impact of the decision before you make it. If this episode started to feel familiar to you and you found yourself thinking, Kate's staring at me in my car. Maybe Kate's been listening on my phone calls. Perhaps, maybe Kate's been there. Take the next step. Go to centeriq.io, download Decision Intelligence. Well, not really download, I guess sign up. So Decision Intelligence will look at just your break-even point for one room. Do you actually know those numbers? Now, let's say you know those numbers. Do you know the break-even point for every classroom in your school? Do you understand how that break-even point is impacted by staffing? This is my favorite one, and this is where it takes the guesswork out. One of the things you can do with Decision IQ, Center IQ Decision Intelligence, is you can run simulations. You have that parent who shows up and you get so excited she's got 3 kids. And you look down and you're like, yeah, my numbers can handle that. And you take that family, they enroll 3 kids. And for some reason, even with 3 new kids, you now have a higher payroll percentage budget than you did before. Do you know why? You'll know why using Decision Intelligence. It maps it out for you. If you put those 3 kids in and all of a sudden 2 of your rooms are now out of compliance and you have to bring in a new staff person, you're bringing in new staff people for 1 kid. How long is that going to take you to fill the rest of the spots in that classroom, to take that classroom that might have been profitable that is now not profitable. Back to profitability. I know, lots of words there. This is for the leaders to take the guesswork out. You get clear visibility and you get to make those decisions with confidence. Go to the website, check out the show notes. If you've got a question, come ask us. Right? You can go to centeriq.io to get your questions answered. You can always reach out to Carrie or I at Kate and Carrie, all spelled out, at childcareconversations.com. We want to be here for you. We want to help you find that clarity in your numbers. We want to make sure that you understand what is a break-even point and how does it work. And the impact the decision is, the impact of the decision for enrolling that family, to hiring that one more staff person. You can play with all of the numbers, new staff pay raises, new families, old families, all in one place, in one picture. I know. I would have loved this as a director, okay? Now, this has been a much longer episode, and that was really not my plan, but hopefully you will be okay with what you learned. Hopefully this wasn't a Debbie Downer episode completely. I'm sure I could do something to make it a little more entertaining, but the one thing I absolutely want you to do is take advantage of the 30-day trial. Go try it, but don't try it if you're not going to implement it. Okay? There's a little bit of homework, right? You do have to put some numbers in it to begin with. Right? So you're going to have to make sure that you build your school snapshot, and then you got to put in your state ratios because it's not quite that magical. And then I want you to start to look at how your rooms behave from a break-even standpoint, from a profitability standpoint, and how does that impact your staffing? Could you imagine not having to worry about whether or not that next hire is this the right time for that next hire? Or the next time to change somebody from a floater or part-time to full-time? Y'all, it has been great sharing with you a little bit about Center IQ, how Center IQ came to be. And I want you to understand that we care. We've been there. And anything we can do to support you in being a profitable, solid program, we want to do that. Go check out childcareconversations.com. Make sure you subscribe to our newsletter and share this episode with someone who needs to know.
Thanks for tuning in. We love bringing you real talk and fresh insight from the world of early childhood education. Be sure to follow us on social media to stay connected and catch all of the latest episodes. And if you're planning a conference, training, or special event, Kate and Carrie would love to speak to your audience. You can learn more about their keynote sessions and workshops at kateandcarrie.com. If you learned something today, share the show and leave us a review below. We'll see you next time on Childcare Conversations.